Okay, so hi everybody. Thanks for joining our meeting with Neil Saunders, who's our head of youth at the Premier League. Neil, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Brilliant, thanks, Neil. Just to get started, so obviously we're going to be talking about careers and your career pathway and your process from school to where you are now. Could we just have a quick description of your job role, what the purpose is, and what a general working week looks like for you?
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, Neil Saunders, head of youth at the Premier League. My role is to oversee youth development across the academy system, which is comprised of the 20 Premier League clubs and then all of the EFL clubs as well. That the academies they operate across boys from the under-9 through to the under-23 age groups, and primarily we work closely with the Category 1 academies, of which I'm pleased to say Sunderland are one of them. So we work closely with Sunderland and the colleagues at the football club. So that is my role, is as well as looking after and supporting clubs with their development with their young players. We also work on the education side of things. So boys will go through their regular school program and work with the clubs in terms of their football development. But as the Premier League, we're also act as an apprenticeship provider for those boys who are fortunate enough to achieve a scholarship at their particular club. So we support their education so that that hopefully helps them on their football pathway, but also whatever stage they leave playing football, they're equipped and educated to be able to go and achieve success or in whatever pursuit they want to do beyond playing.
Brilliant, thank you. And in terms of your general working week, so Monday, I would imagine, is it Monday to Friday, or is it weekends if the match days and things are on?
Yeah, so an interesting one at the Premier League, where obviously it's a corporate organisation based in London. So we have head offices in London, and we have departments. We have a football department which looks at the first team and academy, but we have departments across commercial, marketing, legal, human resources, and those teams typically follow the normal business working week of Monday to Friday, sort of 9 to 5 hours. But working in the football industry, obviously, the biggest day of the week is the Saturday or the Sunday when the teams are playing, and that's no different to the academies and as well as the first team. So during the week, I'll normally spend a couple of days in the office and meeting internally with colleagues and agreeing our particular plan for the week. I'll probably spend a couple of days out visiting our academies and speaking to the academy staff to understand about their needs and how their particular development program is running. And then I will normally attend a game at the weekend. So we're fortunate that typically our under 23 teams, Premier League 2 that they play in, those games take place between Friday night and Monday evening. And then our under 18s play on a Saturday, and our under 9 to under 16 schoolboy groups play on a Sunday. So between the days Friday to Monday, I'll normally take a couple of games at least, and try to make sure I take off a day as well to spend time with myself and with family and friends.
Yeah, which I'm glad you mentioned that, to be fair, which is very, very important.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of you need to always recharge your batteries as such, however that is. In terms of, I had a question. In terms of, so I would imagine your role's quite different every day on a day-to-day basis. And is that something you enjoy?
I'm so fortunate, one to work in football, and something that's been a passion of mine since I was a young boy. My aspiration at that time was to become a professional football player, but I've been fortunate that lots of the skills and experience I developed through that journey has allowed me to continue working in football, but also fortunate to work for an organisation such as the Premier League, which is obviously known around the world, but is a really good organisation to work for, and they really care for the people that are in the organisation. So yeah, I'm really in a very, very fortunate and privileged position. But with that privilege comes a lot of responsibility, and we obviously take the job seriously, and really the primary focus of supporting our clubs and the young players that are in their care to make sure that they're getting the best education and having the best experience that they can.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important to mention, that even though you've got players that are obviously looking to make it professional, education's at the forefront, and I think that's important in life in general. Education should always be at the forefront of everything because I remember my parents always used to push into me that once you've got your GCSEs and your A levels and things like that, nobody can take it away from you. So once you've got your education, nobody can take education away, regardless of what career you go down.
Yeah, and I think beyond even particular lessons and subjects, actually just the mindset of wanting to continue to learn and develop as a person is something that, you know, as the young people listening, hopefully they're starting to do that through their schooling, but you know that's a journey that continues for the rest of your life. And I had a really good quote that said your level of success rarely outperforms your level of personal development, and it really resonated with me because success can mean many different things. It doesn't mean to make a lot of money. It means, you know, having a happy home life and having having positive relationships. And to do that, to achieve success, you have to develop yourself and understand what you want from that. So if it is, you know, managing your own personal finances, actually taking time to understand how best to manage your money and educating yourself. And likewise, if I want success to work in my role at the Premier League, I need to continue to learn and develop so that I'm able to meet the demands of the job at each stage, and hopefully to progress through that career and be ready for the next challenge. So I think learning and personal development for its own sake is such an important thing for young people, but also for middle-aged people and older people as well.
Yeah, no, and that's a brilliant message to say that. And success changes, like you were saying. So from your teens to from your childhood to your teens to your adult life to even when you're elderly, I would imagine success means different things. Just to go off script for a second, so what's success to you right now? How do you define?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I think I'm one I quite like to set goals and things I want to try and achieve. But I think what I've through you know as you can probably tell, I'm really passionate about personal development. I'm constantly trying to understand myself better and learn more. And one of the things I've learned is that success looks like for me is in a number of different areas. So you know I'm very ambitious in my work and motivated by the work that we do at the Premier League. But actually, my physical and mental health is really important to me, and I know that is a really important part of me being able to live the rest of my life well. So, you know, having played football professionally previously, and I've been fortunate to be able to have physical activity in my daily life. That's something that's really important to me, and I recognize that when I have an exercise on a particular day, how my mood can be affected by that. And I know I'm a much more positive person and sort of ready just for every day if I've managed to do a little bit of exercise each day. And then from a mental well-being perspective, making sure that, as you said, taking time to spend time with friends or family and recharge your batteries. So, but yeah, probably those different sides to it. I think it's important that when we are thinking about success, we're thinking about all the things that make us happy and not just putting that in one area. And as well, for me, that's been really important as I've developed. And when I will maybe come onto it, but as I said, I played professionally at Watford until I was 21, and then I didn't get offered a new contract. And when you pursue a passion like I did with football, your identity, everything that success looks like, can be linked to that one thing. And being able to, when I subsequently went off to university, and part of my course was learning and understanding athlete transition and retirement, and all about the transferable skills that you develop and the importance to us of our identity. I've been even more conscious that my identity shouldn't be linked to just being working for the Premier League, or just being a football player, or just being a son or a brother or a friend. It's all of those things, and the more, I guess, understanding how important each parts of those identity are to you means that if one of those falls over at any point, you've still got lots of other parts that can make you happy and that you can use to draw strength upon. So another good, I like my quotes, and hopefully that sort of resonates with some people. But a colleague who works for Manchester United with the younger players, he specialises in identity, and he says to the young players that if you if you had a one-legged chair, how stable would that be? And obviously the answer is that the chair, is unlikely to be able to stand up. And sometimes we can invest in one particular thing that builds up one leg of the chair, but actually that isn't a particularly stable way to be. So this is a message for young football players, but also for I guess young people more generally listening, is the more legs of your chair you can build up and the stronger you can make those legs of the chair, that the more resilient you'll be, and the more you'll be able to adapt to particular setbacks and continue to move forward and develop. So I think that message is to, I guess, to try and make sure you're investing in all parts of your development, so that and also your relationships, so that you have all those things to support you and to lean on as you go through your particular personal journey.
No, that's brilliant, and the brilliant messages there. So thank you for that. If we take, I know you touched on your professional side, so we'll take it back a little bit just before that, and we go back to your education. So how did you find education? What were your favourite subjects, your least favourite subjects, and what was your attitude to education in general?
Well, I can. I bet there's a lot of students that are at home wishing they were in school, and I must admit, I really enjoyed school. I think it was such a great social environment where you got to spend time with your friends, and I hope everybody gets a chance to do that from the 8th of March. Good news, people will be out. The young people listening will be able to do that very soon, and that was the social element of school was really important for me, and I really enjoyed learning. So I had a really good experience with school. I was probably maybe enjoyed the social side of things too much at times, and the message on my reports from teachers would be to concentrate a bit more in class.
That was exactly the same.
I found I concentrated more in subjects, I guess, that you enjoy than others. So as you go through education, I think that's the exciting thing, is you can begin to focus on areas that interest you more, and education then gets even more exciting and enjoyable. But I had a great school experience, and for me it was an interesting one, because I was playing in an academy, so I was very much focused on becoming a football player. But my parents were really clear that you should continue with your education and try to do as well as you possibly can. And I guess I'm quite motivated person by nature and competitive. So if you do something, you want to try and do your best and make sure you can achieve at the level that you should be, because it's not about where you are against compared with other people. I think it's very much how did you perform against what you're capable of doing, and that's something I've always tried to do. Is just, yes, the world wants to benchmark you against others, but actually, if you know that you've done the best that you can for yourself, then that puts you in a really good position, that one you can be proud of what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely an advocate of that. I always used to tell myself, especially when it came to exams and things, it was always about do all as much work as you can revision wise, and then it is what it is when you're sitting there at the exam table. If you feel no, and I used to go in quite comfortably because I was like, I've worked as hard as I can. So if I pass or fail this, it is what it is because I've tried my best.
Yeah,
you can always go again. So yeah, definitely advocate that. And I relate to you on the school reports. Mine were the same. Where he's capable, he applies himself, but he can do a little bit more because he gets distracted. And I was very much similar in terms of the social side. I really liked just interacting with people. So yeah, no, definitely. In terms of, and I know you mentioned it, so we'll move on to the academy side of things. So obviously you were in the academy while you were doing school. Was that a barrier as such in terms of taking your attention away? So say, for example, obviously those that weren't in academies and were just in school, you could 100% focus on school, but I would imagine your time was split and going to go train on nights and things like that. So how did you overcome that barrier of getting the balance right? Yeah, because from my personal experience, I know I never made it at any academy level or anything like that, but when I used to play and we used to train with teams, I used to go to school tired, and because we used to train at night, and to be fair, that was a barrier to me, and good or bad, my parents kind of started pulling me away from football a little bit simply because they were like, your education slipping. And I understood why they did that. But obviously for you, making it to a level where you're in an academy system where there's a big chance of success and making it as a professional, which you did, how did you manage that balance, or how did your family manage that balance for you as a child?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think any pursuit in life, there's a positive and potentially a trade-off to it. So with football, there's definitely trying to balance. I was traveling to Watford from my home in Essex, which probably, just over an hour, a couple of nights a week, and then at the weekends to play games. So I'd often my dad would be driving. Either eating dinner on the way to training or sleeping in the car on the way back. So he was my taxi driver pretty much, and a big support in terms of my football. But when I think about those journeys, it was a great opportunity to spend time with my dad, and we'd have, when I wasn't eating or sleeping, we were having conversations and spending, time together as father and son, which was really nice. And then in terms of, I said about the balance, actually, sometimes when school could be stressful, football was a release, and sometimes when football was particularly stressful, school was a release. So I think having both of those things helped. One helped the other. I was also fortunate that my parents really valued education and I guess ensured that I did continue to focus on my studies. And from the football club, it's important that the staff and the coaches are asking you how school's going, even taking interest in you as a young person beyond being a football player, so that as when I want to impress my coaches, if they're suddenly asking me about school, I don't want to tell them that I've not been going to school and I've not been doing particularly well. So I think that's an important role for coaches to play with young people. But I think you can only do your best, and if young people are struggling to cope with particular dual pursuits that they're on, it's important that you speak to somebody about that and share how you're feeling, so that you can put a plan together, or they can support you to try to manage that, whether that's reducing football for a period but while you get back up to speed with your school, or whether there's additional support you can have at school. I think it's just the message is, make sure you're not worrying about that yourself and not telling anybody. Speak to somebody about that, and that's because there's loads of people that will want to help and help you through that.
Yeah, that's been I found from the discussions this morning as well, that's been a common theme. Everybody's mentioned communication is important, and making sure you're speaking to people, because sometimes we can make things bigger than they are in our heads, and as soon as we communicate that, you find out that's not that big, and it's not that hard, it's not that worry, it's not a big worry, and people are there to support you with that. You've briefly touched on it, but what was your personal journey from school to your current role now? So what was that pathway like, and how did that look?
Yeah, so quite a few steps in between us. So as I said, I was in Watford's academy, and I was fortunate to be an apprentice there, and I did a couple of years as a young professional. I had a couple of bad injuries on my knee, one particular one that had required surgery, and I wasn't offered a new contract at the end of that 2-year period. So at 21, after going on trial at a few clubs and not really being able to find a new club, I decided to accept an offer to go to the University of Bath, and where I'd continued my studies alongside my football as apprentice, I was able to get onto a foundation degree course. That meant it was slightly longer journey than maybe others that were coming into university having been in full-time education, when I was part-time education, part-time football. But in the grand scheme of things, one extra year to come out with a degree wasn't a really significant barrier. So I had 4 years at the University of Bath, and I was able to play for their football team, which was called Team Bath, and they played in the semi-professional leagues. I graduated with at the end of that 4 years with a first-class degree, and I found that I was really nervous about going to university and how am I going to be able to cope in that environment. No, there wasn't any previous members of my family that had been to university, so I didn't really know what the standard was like and whether you'd be able to work at the level that's required for university. But I found that once I got in there, I really took to the learning. And I think because my degree was in sports development, which is something I'm really passionate about, it meant that I really invested time in my studies. And I was probably, where I was 21, slightly older than some of the other students, 1 or 2 years older. I felt like I really knew why I was going to university. I really wanted to get that education to help me for a future career. At the same time, I continued my football. I was, again, really fortunate that when I graduated from university, I had an offer to go and play professionally again with Exeter City, and they were in the National League at the time, so one below the professional leagues. And because I'd finished my studies, I thought, what a great opportunity to go and try again to play in the Football League, and to give that a shot, knowing that I've got this degree to support me as and when I want to go into a future career. So I took the opportunity to go to Exeter, and I had 3 years there, and it was a really successful time for the club. We achieved 2 promotions up into League One, and I managed to fulfil my ambitions of playing in the league. But I did continue to have a number of injuries, and then at 27, I decided, right, okay, it's time to hang up your boots and to begin a new career. And I managed to reach out. I reached out to some people that I'd met along my journey, both in football and outside, and a contact at, or I was made aware of an opportunity at the Premier League, working in an administrative role within their youth development department. So I, applied and went for interview, and I was successful in that job. So from finishing playing, within 3 months, I was then going into London with a suit and tie every day to go into the Premier League offices, which was felt really exciting, from and a new start for me, which was really exciting. And yeah, 10 years later, I've been again fortunate that I've been able to grow and develop, along with the business. And when I started, our department had about 5 people, and I think you're speaking to some of my colleagues within our team that have been there a similar time to me, and we're now around 35 people in the department. So being able to grow and develop along with the business, and into the role that I'm doing now, and still working in football in a role that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, and I love that message that you started as like an administration role, and then you've climbed up to being head of youth. That's brilliant. Your professional journey is really intriguing, with the number of roles and adaptations. If we take it back to when you left Watford, what made you, and you've touched on this, but if we're going a bit more depth, what made you reconsider re-entering education and going to university? Because I know, say for example, once you finish football, it's kind of like some people could consider education a step back. So what made you go back into education?
Yeah, it's a good question. And where you're, as a young professional, you're the lowest paid football player in the club, but actually relative to the average wage of people in other careers, you're relatively well paid, particularly for as a 19 or 20-year-old, when most people are just entering the workplace and starting on those really entry level salaries. So when I wasn't offered a new contract, and you're looking around at A, potential career paths, and B, the starting salaries and where you can move to, I felt I would have ended up taking a job that was sort of because the opportunity was there, rather than me owning that decision about where I go and what my career would look like. So I felt that going to university would give me more options and more choice, and it would give me a bit of time to decide what career I wanted to take outside of football, rather than just getting a job for the sake of getting a job. So I think for me, I think the biggest take home is education gives you choice, and choice gives you freedom to live the way choose, follow the life and career that you want to follow. So I think, again, probably a message, if I was trying to pass on a message to the young people listening, would be that education and doing well in all the different subjects gives you the choice then to choose your next step at college or an apprenticeship or wherever you do, and keeping those choices open for as long as you can gives you the freedom then to pursue, hopefully, and find a career that suits your skill set and your personality, but also one that you're passionate about, and that will fulfill you going forward.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to steal that one, Neil, just so you know. Education gives you choice, choice gives you freedom. That one's banned. In terms of football, and I'm a big advocate for this just in sport in general, but football, importantly, is what skills did you find that were transferable that helped you in education roles after that? Because I think sport teaches you so much that you can use in life, outside of the field or the court or wherever you are. So what did you find that was from your youth that was transferable into education, but also into your role now that you're still using?
Yeah, another good question, Jazz. I think the probably the biggest one is how to win and how to lose, and probably more importantly how to lose, and knowing that you lose on a Saturday, but actually that's just an opportunity then to try and work on the areas that you didn't do so well the previous week, and it gives you enough, you've got an opportunity to win the following week. So I think that mindset of losing isn't final. It's not a you've lost and then that's it. It's after every defeat you've got an opportunity to reflect on how you performed, what you could do better, and how you're going to improve. And I think that mindset, that every little setback or every performance where you didn't do as well as you could, taking the opportunity to reflect on that, and knowing that that's all learning. I've again, another quote is, I can't remember who said it, but said you win or you learn. You never lose. And I'm trying to take that as much as I want to win, I don't want to lose. But actually, losing is just an opportunity to learn and move forward again. So that's probably one of the biggest ones. Some of the more transferable skills. Actually, I didn't realize until I started studying that subject at university, but are teamwork and communication, and being able to work with people from different backgrounds and different personality types, and treat people equally, but knowing that you need to use a different approach with different people to try and get to the desired outcome. So that's really important. And then linked to, I guess, the losing part is probably resilience, that things that you really, really want aren't very often handed to you on a plate or easy to come by. So knowing that if there's something that's really good, you want to do well in your GCSEs or to be able to go to college, you're going to have to work really hard to achieve them. And if you get a little setback along the way, know that you need to dust yourself off and then try even harder and go again.
Yeah, no, brilliant. The next one's about teamwork and working within a successful group of people. So obviously when you joined Exeter and you won back-to-back promotions into League One, that's a brilliant accomplishment. But how do you feel, and what key skills and qualities are required to create a winning team? Because I think winning teams are just work in life in general. When you walk into an organisation, you're instantly in a team, regardless of what that role is. So obviously from a football standpoint, what did you find were the key to having a successful team on the field and off the field, to be fair? Because you're all a family, I would imagine, and success brings family units. So how do you categorize that, and what's key?
Yeah, and that's a really good point, actually, because where at Exeter, we were obviously, Exeter's in Devon, so in the southwest part of the country, right near the bottom, so probably as far from Sunderland as you can get, actually, on the map. But it's quite a remote part of the country. So lots of the players moved from wherever they were previously living to move to Exeter and to play there. So, and that doesn't very often happen at that level of football. Lots of time people are commuting and traveling to the particular club. So the fact that we were all living with either together as young players, and I shared a house with a couple of players, other players living in the area with their family, it meant that we developed a really good bond as people, and all the trust that comes with building good relationships, and that trust in each other helped off the pitch as much as on the pitch. But I also think there was a shared appetite for improving and focusing on the performance, not just on the outcome. So football is judged whether you won that weekend and got the 3 points, but as a group what you were trying to achieve in that performance and how you wanted to try and win the game. And even if we won the match that particular weekend, we would measure ourselves against what we were trying to achieve and how we performed that skill. So it meant that we were always thinking about our performance rather than just the outcome. And I think in the long run that helped us. And also we had a really good head coach, and he sort of imparted on us that everybody's ability is able to be improved, and with dedication and hard work you can improve your skills. I know growth mindset and Carol Dweck are part of the sort of academic curriculum now, so I'm sure the young people listening will be familiar with that. But really, that idea that if I spend time trying to develop my footballing skills, that will make me a better player and a better teammate. And everybody bought into that idea, so we're all trying to improve as individuals as well as improve the team.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for the young people listening to know that you find out what outcome you want and you work backwards to plan how you're going to get to that outcome, instead of doing it the other way around. So no, it's really, really crucial. Obviously, football's classed as a relatively short career, and you retired at 27 through injury. But did that come with any anxieties and fears about what was next, or was there always a plan prior to making the decision? And if so, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I'll be honest. There wasn't the plan when I was younger. You know, you're very much focused on becoming a football player. Maybe in the back of my mind, I had more than a plan of what I would do beyond football. I had an idea that continuing my education would hopefully provide me with that choice that I spoke about earlier when it came to stop playing. I think when after university, then I had a much more of an idea that football would be a finite time, and particularly when I signed for Exeter, I'd suffered some significant injuries at that point anyway, so I knew it was probably a limited time. And yeah, you have concerns about, okay, I think I've educated myself, I think I'm ready to go and get those jobs, but will I be able to find a job? But I think it's important that you be positive and you believe that you will get it, because that's the only way that others are going to believe in you, if you believe in yourself, or you get a better chance of them believing if you believe in yourself. But in terms of the long-term goal, that wasn't something I had then, but that's something that I've developed over time, where I'm more thinking about, right, how do I, if that's where I want to get to in 10 years time, what do I need to do this year? What do I need to do next year? And start to work backwards from that, as you said earlier. And because people say we often overestimate what we can do in 1 year. I think that's true, and we underestimate what we can achieve in 10 years. So for young people, think if you're 15, how old will people be listening, Chaz?
Would say 14 to 16, 14 to 17.
You're 14, 16, you're going to be 24 to 26.
Mhm.
Absolutely, you can achieve whatever you want in 10 years' time. But what is, you won't do that in a year. So what does that look like for you in the coming months and years ahead? And how do you put yourself in a position to be where you want to be at 24 and 26, and hopefully you go out and achieve it?
Yeah, no, brilliant advice. 'Cause sometimes I feel, especially working with young people a lot, I feel like they're in a rush, and I understand why, because they want to achieve a lot quick. But I think the quicker they realise that, they put a plan in place and take the time with it and learn, everything's meant to be. So everything that, if they start at the bottom, they're meant to start at the bottom, because you're meant to pick up core skills that you need to then get used at the top. So it's really important advice. Thanks for sharing that. In terms of your professional journey, it's been very vast. Is there anyone who's inspired you and influenced you along the way, throughout? So when you were younger, to now, is there any motivation or influence that you've taken from other people?
Yeah, I think lots of people. I think I'm one that, rather than one particular person, I've tried to absorb and take in, everyone that you work with. Again, working in football, you're fortunate that there's a lot of really skilled people that have really working hard to, or worked hard to develop themselves, and a lot of people with mindsets that are set to deal with setbacks and keep moving forward. So I think, rather than single out one person in particular, there's probably lots of people that I've come across, from teachers that really helped develop my love of education. And I can think of a particular university lecturer who's actually a lecturer from California, and he was a track coach at a university in California. He's moved to the UK, and his lecture was around the sort of sociology of sport, and why we take part in sport as a society, and wider, not just the individual, but as why it exists in society. And I think what he used to say, some really, or not say controversial things, but he would set debates where you would be really starting to be emotional and arguing one side and the other. And at the time, you'd get frustrated with how can you really think this? And looking back, he didn't really think that. He was just putting one argument out there to help you to understand how to look at things from both sides and how to challenge and how to think critically, how to, think, question why you do things in a particular way. And I think that was a really important lesson, that being able to ask questions and, why do we do this, or is there a better way of doing it? If you can ask really good questions, you're going to have really good outcomes. So yeah, that's probably one individual that he wouldn't necessarily know he'd impacted me. And I think that's the beauty of some of the work that you're doing, Jazz, where you're working with young people, is you don't even know sometimes the impact that they're having, but they maybe don't know it at the time, but they will learn it as they in their future careers. And then at the Premier League, we were fortunate to have a chief executive, Richard Scudamore, who was there for something like 20 years, and seeing somebody's consistency in how they conducted themselves every single day. And you think, right, I want to be a chief executive, and this is how I'd be, and these are the things I do. But to really do that and be consistent of that every single day, and keep your performance at that high level, he was so impressive in doing that. And I sort of often, if I'm thinking about, right, how am I going to be today in work, I can think back to Richard Scudamore and think, right, okay, well, I need to bring my A game to work today and try to make sure every day counts. It's not just another day in work. Actually, you're really going to try and be as productive you can and have a positive impact on whichever particular work you're focusing on that day.
Yeah, I found doing these talks that a common theme from everybody that I spoke to has been different individuals, but being around them and feeling that aura and having that and copying those behaviors and watching people, even if you've never spoken to them in your life, just watching how they handle themselves and how they speak to other people. And if you mirror that, eventually you become that, you become your own version of that, and then that creates success in its own way, going back to success. And that's really good to hear.
I think that's really infectious as well, with who you're surrounding yourself with and who you're building relationships with. Like, really fortunate, they've got lots of friends who have got different qualities, but they're all trying to have a positive outlook. They're all trying to develop and themselves, and that rubs off on them, because you look at how they're working, how they're operating, and you think, okay, that inspires me to do my job better, or to develop myself further, or to get a bit better at this particular sport that I'm playing. So yeah, I think really making sure you're connecting with friends who share your interests or are able to challenge what you're doing, and that are helping you or helping to inspire what you do is really important.
Yeah, no, and that's fundamental advice. Thinking about my story, obviously my brother used to constantly push me, not in the same criteria what he's into and I'm into, but just because he was generally a success, so I was like chasing that to mirror that. And when you go back to influences and motivations, obviously my brother's one, but that was just naturally. And then I had friends in uni who would just constantly push to, we need to do this, but in total different industries and things like that. So it rubbed off. So you've just got to, that's really good advice in terms of surrounding yourself with the right people as best you can. And if you haven't got them right people around you, find them. And they're all around everywhere. Next one. So your career is one which spans from playing football, being involved behind the scenes in football. What are 3 key learning points that you've taken during your journey that you wish to share?
I think one would be, enjoy the journey. It's about the journey, not about the destination, I think is the phrase. But really truly believe in that when I think about my football career and trying to become a professional or Premier League player, I often joke that I made it to the Premier League. It wasn't quite how I anticipated, working in their offices, but in terms of my football career, I didn't get to, in your head as a young person, I'm thinking I'm going to play in the Premier League and for Man United and play for England, and I didn't achieve that. But in striving for such a big goal, the things I achieved along the way that are helping me now in my future career, and as a person, as a as a husband, or as a friend or as a son. There was so many positives from that, and the people that I've met along the way. So I think don't be scared of aiming for, having ambitious plans, but also just try, just that whole journey you're learning along that, even if you don't get to that end point, or whether the destination changes along the way. I think really focus on the journey, and enjoy what you're doing. I think the second one would be to to believe in yourself, and have the confidence that you can go and do it, because again, to use another phrase, I think it's by the guy who created Ford. So if you know Ford Motors, he used to say, if you believe you can or you can't, either way you're correct. And the message really is that, if you're going to achieve it, you have to believe that you can achieve it, because someone else can't believe it for you. And I constantly tell myself that, because everybody has their self-doubts, or whether you doubt your ability to do that, or your skills. But I think you really have to try and believe in yourself that you can do that, so that you can work through whatever those things holding you back are to achieve. So that was two. What's the third one that we're looking for? I think the third lesson for me is probably be true to yourself, and who you are. Everybody is unique, and you have your own personality and skills. And I think really think about who you are as a person, what things you want to, what will make you happy in your life, and how you can how can you best go about achieving that. And that means many different things for different people. It may be going into teaching, it may be working in football, working another career, and you could be earning a lot of money or less money, and that doesn't, that the money you earn in your career, or the salary of your job, doesn't define you as a person or your success. I think we're seeing that through the pandemic, where frontline workers and key workers, and often those jobs aren't necessarily as highly paid as other industries, but actually who would you want to be like? Actually, those people are really, really inspirational. And I think so, yeah, be true to yourself, and what makes you happy, and don't be influenced by sort of material things or external factors. Think about you as a person, and what makes you happy inside, and spend time thinking about that, and hopefully that set you on the right course.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that I like the bit where you went, I was dreaming of playing in the Premier League, now I work for the Premier League. I think that's really important, because like, your vision's still there. So your vision from a child, your success, if it's to play in the Premier League.
I made it to the Premier League. I wasn't quite clear on what I wanted to do in the Premier League, but
but it's funny how things work out. And if you think back all them years, yes, it didn't come from the playing side, but actually you've made it to the Premier League, so that's a big tick. So really, you have achieved what you set out to achieve. I like the fact that it's very flexible in approach, so you haven't, and when things do chop and change, and I think that's really important for young people to know, that as you go through life, things do happen, not as you expected them when you were younger. So with that, don't lose sight of the main goal, because it will come around in funny ways. Life is quite funny in that sense, but if you keep grinding and you keep going, you'll be a success no matter what. Finally, Neil, thanks very much for your time so far. Knowing everything you know now, from your experiences, from your knowledge, what advice would you give to your, let's say, 16-year-old self with everything you know now?
Well, that's a tough question. What advice would I give to myself? I think be present in everything you do. I think value the time you have with friends, or the time when you're in the classroom, and really try to be present in each of those moments, or when you're at home with your family, and really make the most of whatever that time is. I think I look back, and you say, well, 16-year-old self, I'm 37 now, so over 20 years ago, and it doesn't feel like 20 years. I think the advice would just be to enjoy everything you're doing, follow things that interest you, to really keep education as one of your core legs of the chair, because that, as I said earlier, will give you choice. And I think that's probably, yeah, following your passion and dreams. There is happiness in pursuit. You know, people are pursuing happiness, but there is happiness in pursuit. And you know, keeping going with education, because learning is something that will be with you for your whole life. And I think beginning that at a young age and continuing that through sort of the age group, the young people listening now, through to their sort of in adulthood, and then as they get older, I think if you've got that mindset to learn and continue to develop yourself, then that will really stand you in good stead. So I think, yeah, follow your things that you're passionate about, and to continue with your education, because that will give you choice as well.
No, that's brilliant advice. Thank you very much for your time and for your wisdom. That was hopefully that will go really far in.
I've never been told I had wisdom, Jazz. So I'll take that. Thank you.
No problem. No, it's really valuable experience, and you're echoing what we always try and mention to the young people, and what the teachers are always trying to say. But I think it's really key for the young people to hear it from someone different. That hopefully when we're allowed, you'll come down to Sunderland and maybe meet some of these young people. But obviously you're all the way in London working for the Premier League, so you're someone that naturally 9 times out of 10 these young people won't have access to. So for you to say something from your job role and your job title in the organisation you work for, that's really fundamental for them to hear, and really valuable. So
yeah, I think probably, Jazz, just to add, is it's hard for young people to think of careers that they can't see. So careers you might see is, you know, a football player because they're on TV or on Instagram and an influencer. So, you know, I didn't know that a job at the Premier League existed when I was in school. And, you know, the school that I went to everybody didn't go to college or on to university. So I guess I probably feel like I can relate to young people on the call will be from different backgrounds and maybe not know some of the careers that they may end up doing that actually exist. So I think the more you can try to find out what your passions are and what careers may be available to you, that will allow you to end up working in a career that you enjoy. And then actually, I think my message is probably working in football, because I enjoy football so much and am passionate about developing young people. It doesn't feel like you're working. You know, it feels like you're doing something you really enjoy and you're getting paid to do it. So I think, yeah, try to explore as many, you know, whatever you're passionate about, try to find as many different roles that you can do in that space as possible, so that you can start to build up your CV and your skills, so that when you're at the age when you're able to enter the workplace or to go to college or to university, you put yourself in the best position to do that.
Yeah, totally agree. Don't box yourself. Always find your interest, find your theme, what you're into, your topic you're into, and then something will come around in that topic or interest, and you'll find your workplace. Thank you very much for your time, Neil. I genuinely appreciate it. That was really good, really valuable. Hopefully, I would imagine the young people have took something from this, but I'm very keen for them to use this maybe a year down the line as well, when they need a bit of inspiration and motivation, or 2 years down the line. So hopefully they'll be listening to you for a while, and maybe we can get you out to down Sunderland or virtually at some point in the near future.
I look forward to it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.